The battle of wizards and warriors continues with iron swords. The evil wizard Malkill will take the shape of the earth, wind, water, and fire. Farewell! The fate of the world is in your hands!
You're listening to the Piercing Wizard podcast, and I'm your host, Ryan Willett. I'm a professional body piercer with 20 years experience. I travel around the world teaching technique and safety classes, and I'm a member of the Association of Professional Piercers. Listen in as I talk to my friends and colleagues about our industry so we can all stay sharp. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Piercing Wizard podcast. It is hot as heck today, and our air conditioner is broken, so we are sitting out in our back garden, which is a yard if you're an American. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Ryan has grown up soft and spoiled with his air conditioner. I, on the other hand, am from an overcast, humid, sweaty island where air conditioners are for the elite only.
It's really not a thing, not even in hotels.
Yeah, it's like not in hotels, not in most shops,
I remember
not in most homes.
One of the first times I went to, I don't know, let's just say Europe. And it was like, okay, no air conditioning. So in the summertime, you just sweat and deal with it. And no ice. There's no ice anywhere in all of Europe.
And in the UK in particular, the homes are built with the intention of storing heat because of the winter, because the heating's also not great. So in the winter or in the summer, we just kind of, die. Yeah.
Well, we had air conditioning. It was good while it lasted. But I just don't think it could keep up. So we don't have an AC repair guy coming out until sometime next week. So we just have fans and sweaty balls.
I've been enjoying the salty snacks.
So, because of the boss. So speaking of hot as heck, we just got back from Las Vegas where it was even hotter. The APP conference, I think, went really well this year. There was that extra rain show on the first day, but after that, things went pretty smoothly. How was your first APP conference being a big, important board member?
It was definitely a different experience than what I've had in the past, where I've just been as an instructor and working with you on the vendor floor. And it was definitely a lot to manage, mainly because I had agreed to so much stuff, I think, before I even knew I was going to be on the board because of how long this stuff takes to plan. So I was on the board. When you're doing that, obviously there's meetings that you go to and there's certain work things that you have to do and be available for throughout the event. But I'd also agreed to help you on the vendor floor.
Yes.
And I'd also been scheduled to teach 5 classes.
Yes.
So it was kind of like, I didn't realize till the day before when I'd actually sat down and got my final schedule that I was like, fuck.
Well, yeah, it's because the planning is so long term. So classes were selected nearly a year in advance. The schedule was put together months in advance, and that was all before you were elected to the board.
Yeah, so I thought everything apart from, the few little hiccups like there always are, like, the
ceiling pissing rain.
Apart from that, I thought it went really well. I felt like there was a really good energy.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like, in a weird way, the whole debacle with the ceiling and the leak, it kind of broke the tension a little bit amongst the new attendees, because it kind of gave them something to talk about because it was so weird. Thankfully, they were able to get it resolved. So everything went amazingly well considering the bumpy start. And I don't think I would have struggled as much with any couple of the things that I had going on. I think this year it had all just piled up because I didn't realize it was all going to be happening all at once. So I think next year will be easier. That's what I think. Why does everyone laugh when I say that?
Child.
Why does everyone, you know what, a little bit more optimism would be good from you,
I think
Willett.
Optimism is the right word to use for this year, because it was like a just manifest positivity year, because every year you go into it, and some people seem like they're just showing up ready to complain about something. This year it felt like people were showing up and they were just ready to enjoy themselves at conference. Yeah,
I really felt that there was a keep calm and carry on vibe, which I'm all for. Being from the UK, we love just just laughing about it when something crazy happens and just trying to make the best of the situation. I think everybody did, and moved past it. And yeah, I thought the conference went really well.
Yeah, me too. So good job to all of ye scholars, the people who got there on the Legacy Scholarship. Hopefully that's just the fireworks in the background. This is, we're just about at 4th of July, so that's what's going on here. But anyway, good job to the scholars, good job to the volunteers, and good job to all the instructors, the attendees, et cetera, et cetera. These fireworks in the back are going to drive me nuts.
There's something more important that I think we need to talk about when it comes to conference.
Is
that
it the dick shirt?
I think is going to be on everyone's minds right now, and that is the merch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what everybody's talking about is
Yeah.
your dick t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Things went well. So, we did a cool imposter syndrome t-shirt. That's like an idea that I'd had in the back of my mind for a year or two. I just didn't know how to gel it. And you came up with the idea. So I had like the loose concept and you came up with the design. You came up with another really cool Monsterverse shirt, your Ring Ghidorah Dick Monster shirt. And we had the Pierce Sylvester little Happy Needle guy. If you're interested in any merch, there is some left. There is not much left in very limited sizes, but you can go to precisionbodyarts.com/shop. You can get all the pins, all the stickers, some of the shirts, and I can send them just about anywhere in the world. So grab them while you can. There are not many left.
None of these designs were made with AI, because AI could never make up a King Ghidorah t-shirt with penis heads.
No, there is no intelligence in the world other than human that can come up with something that whimsical.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to do a shout out to Dave Cole, who is the artist that we use for most of our projects. So I know that AI is here to stay, but I want to remind people that we are in a creative industry. Like, we are artists. Well, you can, maybe call yourself something else, a service provider or whatever, but I think that we are artists. We have that huge overlap with the tattoo world, and you really have to support art. Otherwise, people won't have jobs and careers and stuff anymore. So if you want to get your art done, I know it's really tempting to just, plug in a prompt and have a computer spit it out for you, but where's the real creativity and expression? And also, where's the support for the communities that also support us? So if you're going to make some merch, consider actually doing it with an artist, whether it's maybe a tattooer or a friend of yours if you want to try to do something yourself, or think of this crazy concept, hiring a professional artist and paying them to do what they do really well, which is what I like to do with Dave Cole. So thanks a lot, Davey. I appreciate it.
And our other design, Pierce Sylvester, another creation that you came up with for this year's Patreon giveaway shirt that you gave away to Patreon subscribers on your Archmage tier that were in attendance at APP.
Mm-hmm.
If they came up to see you at your booth, they could get one for themselves. I know that you work really hard, probably harder than a lot of people realize, in doing your best to try and make sure that the people that are supporting you through Patreon get good value and feel appreciated, and you're always putting out new content on that platform. Do you want to maybe share what your newest video is?
My newest video, the next one, is going to be a tragus piercing video. I made one previously where I was showing you ever seen my fish hook method for doing a tragus from the back to the front?
Yeah.
Some piercers find that to be a little bit tricky. I don't blame them. I found it really difficult the first couple of years that I was trying to develop that. But so I made kind of a companion video to it, doing a tragus from the front to the back, a slightly more traditional method, but showing a couple different ways that you can do it, even just doing it from the front to the back. So with a needle and a taper for reversing direction, different kinds of tissue support tools, including like a disposable one made of blanks. And I've got 4 different examples in that. So that should be out relatively soon, mid-July 2026. Just before conference, I published a video about forward helix piercings, showing a back-to-front method for piercing it with a labret post, but also I did a double forward helix with rings, and I hardly ever pierce those with rings. I did it on a friend of mine, and I really wanted to show that example because I think rings still get like a bad rep lately, but they're acceptable, as long as you're using the right size, you're using your best judgment for what would heal. I'm not going to use rings on everything, but I don't think there's a problem with using rings on some stuff. So I wanted to show a couple videos with that.
So this week's episode, you are interviewing a member of the UKAPP Board of Directors.
Oh, do I know him? Them? Do I know them? The person?
I mean, it's hard to say, Brian. Your paths may have crossed. For those of you who don't know, we are, of course, talking about
The wee lad.
the wee lad. I don't even like. He is my apprentice, and I kind of feel, I think, the way that you felt with Evan, where I always want to call him my apprentice, but he is not just an apprentice now. He is a professional piercer.
Yeah.
So I always kind of get that weird insecurity when I'm like, oh, my apprentice, because like he'll always be my apprentice, you know, like in that respect. But he's a full grown up.
I really like the trainee system in Japan. There's the whole like senpai kohai relationship where it's like no matter where you are in your career, you're still the senpai and the kohai, even if you're both like on to different things in life. So it was cool. You know, I was in Glasgow recently and I got to sit down with Jordan in your shop and have a nice conversation. It's broken up into a couple of parts because like we were just dicking around in between clients. So record a little bit here, record a little bit there. And we had to just stop recording every now and then for clients. But it was really fun to talk to him.
Yeah, so we've been wanting him to do an episode for a while because if you haven't met Jordan, he's a super interesting guy, really intelligent, really funny. And we've really wanted to get him on the podcast, but it's just not one of those things that you want to force when the timing's not right. So I'm really glad that we were able to, or you at least were finally able to pin it down and have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
But I'm so proud of all the work that he's done and his success in the recent UKPP elections as their new medical director. So before we get into that conversation, we just wanted to give a quick shout out to all those attending our upcoming seminar in Chicago. It is sold out.
Yeah.
I've never been to Chicago and Chicago. Is that, am I not saying it right?
Chicago. Yeah.
We're going to be teaching an in-person seminar there, a private in-person seminar. We're going to be attending some local events. We're going to be going to G-Fest.
Yeah, Godzilla Fest, for those who don't know.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
And the kickoff of the G1 Climax tournament.
And that's a different thing, not a Godzilla thing.
No, that's a wrestling thing.
That's a wrestling. So we're going to G-Fest and the G1 Climax.
For New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah.
And Kinosuke Takeshita is going to be there.
Kinosuke Takeshita.
I was promised
Yep.
Kinosuke Takeshita.
Yeah.
And he'd better be there.
Yes.
Or so help me.
Yeah. So looking forward to seeing everybody in Chicago coming up very, very soon. I've lined up some vendors for samples of jewelry and needles, tools, aftercare, stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to Chicago. Going to try to do some other seminars probably in the fall, sometime a little bit later this year. And then I'm also going to BMX. So if anybody's going to be there, I will see you in Berlin in mid-August. But for now, let's go ahead and get into this interview with newly elected UKAPP Board of Directors member, Jordan Jones.
Whoop whoop.
Okay, hit me.
Hello, I'm Jordan Jones. I work out of Forest Piercing in Glasgow. I am Lola Slider's apprentice, and I have just newly been nominated to the board as medical liaison for the UKAPP.
Elected. You said nominated.
Oh.
You've been full on elected.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough for me to like find a good place to start because like I've known you for a while through like Lola, obviously, and I've seen all the different chapters of like Jordan the Piercer, but you've been in this for a relatively short amount of time, and you've advanced what I would consider to be like a relatively far amount in that short amount of time. I think like there are lots of nice things that I could say about you, but I think a lot of it just boils down to like you're good at adulting. And like as a somewhat younger person who is like good at adulting, what about the body piercing industry has felt like natural to you or challenging to you as someone who has like a little bit more of like a adult world professional job experience coming into this industry?
Yeah.
Or is that like a confusing or lame way to set it up?
No. I would say, like, I think a big thing is being respectful is like massively a part of professionalism for me. And I don't mean respectful in a way of like, I think every piercer that I am aware of has respect for their clients. It's also the way in which we just talk to one another as well. Is like I would say my customer service skills are definitely a massive strong point for me, but I don't treat customers like customers. I kind of treat them like a pal, you know, while maintaining a level of professionalism where I keep that boundary really prominent, you know.
Yeah, you're a lot more comfortable with small talk than I am, and not small talk as a way to like, you know, minimize what you're doing, because like it's customer service, but it feels very organic and natural. Like me being here, like we're recording this in Forest in Glasgow right now. I've been here for a few days, and like listening to your interactions with clients, like it's very warm. I haven't heard you get like frustrated or short with a client. Like I think any piercer that's, you know, at the end of a long day or something, and you've already gone through those similar conversations several times throughout the day, sometimes your energy levels drain and your customer service energy drains with it. So is it based on your past experiences in professional fields? You have military experience. Do you feel like some of it comes from that, or do you feel like that's just your natural personality coming through?
I would definitely have to say that it was my military background, because anytime you're in a public-facing role in the military, like if you're even just walking down the street, you are representing Her Majesty, well, at the time, Her Majesty's Army. So there's always that you are representing something bigger than yourself. And even if you are having a proper rubbish day, you can't let that slip, you know? And I'm not more capable of that than anyone else. But the thing for me is I always feel rubbish if I'm at that point in the day where my energy levels aren't at 100%. And I'm still super professional with people, but I feel rubbish because they don't get as much of me as other people do.
The razzle dazzle.
Yeah. But I still never drop below what I would consider my minimum professional standard, you know? And that is definitely just mental endurance. Like that's something that the army taught me more than anything else, was you can do more than you think you can. And your point of where your head will say we're done is actually very far away from what you could do. But that's always a balance, because I still get burnt out.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you hide it well if you do, because like I have, the farther I get in this industry, the tougher I find it to hide when I've run out of gas in the tank, basically. Like I can get through a full day at work, but if my energy runs out halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, like those last few piercings, I feel like I'm giving people an excellent body piercing, but not always an excellent Ryan.
The show,
because like it's tougher for me to, like, even if they're in a great mood and they have high energy, and even if we're kind of compatible with the things that we might be able to small talk about or whatever, sometimes by the end of the day, it's just that shortness of like, did you have any questions? No, okay, we're just going to get into this, and then that's it. But I haven't heard you kind of hit the bottom. Like you always have that warmth and that like welcoming kind of energy for people, even if you might not have some of that energy for yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to see me when I get home.
Yeah.
There are some days where it's like, you know, I don't talk to anyone. You know, it's just, that's my recharge time. And my partner and my family see it more, where it's like they know, okay, he needs a minute to himself, you know. So I can get through the day, but I definitely notice it in my own time, is like that's where it makes a massive impact.
Would you label yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
Massively introverted.
Yeah.
I can put on the mask. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it, because when I was younger, I mean, I've always been an introvert. That's how I would identify myself too. When I was younger, I had a tougher time putting on the mask, giving people the show. And then, you know, I kind of hit my stride where I realized like they're excited, I don't want to dash their enthusiasm. I want to try to keep that enthusiasm going. And through kind of like the natural pacing of a body piercing, 15 minutes FaceTime, 30 minutes FaceTime, maybe a little bit more on occasion, that kind of is my ceiling. So if I needed to be on for like an hour or more, I would find that really challenging because I don't necessarily have that energy for myself. I'm not energized by all those interactions. And sometimes what energy I have kind of leaves with the client. Like I give them everything that I have for the energy, and sometimes I don't have very much left by the end of the day.
I think for me so before I was piercing full time, I was part-time working at a call center. And at that call center, I was able to work from home. And that was what taught me that I get energized by other people. So there's sometimes been where I come in and I open up the shop at the start of the day and I'm like, bastard, today is not going to be my day. Mm-hmm. And then the first person comes in and they're like super excited and any fatigue I had disappears and they energize me. So I think that for me is really what keeps me going. And I hope that I can give back to those customers what they give to me, because it's definitely the thing that keeps me going.
Yeah. I think with body piercing, there's like a technical service skill element of it, but there's also kind of a performance element of it, because like you're not piercing in a vacuum. Like there's a person, they're having their own experience, their own day, whether it's good, bad, neutral, whatever. And you want to like support them in their day and have them leaving like they felt like they had a positive experience. And sometimes that can be tough to find in yourself. I think as piercers, a lot of times people beat themselves up over like, maybe the piercing was a 9 out of 10 or maybe less or something like that, and not a 10 out of 10. And that can really like hurt your personal energy. Sometimes you can feel like maybe the piercing, like the act of piercing was a 10 out of 10, but like maybe your energy or your customer service was less than a 10 out of 10. And
for sure,
I carry a lot of like guilt and self-doubt when I feel that, even if it wasn't something where it was like verbally expressed or like obvious in some way, but like I feel that and I carry that kind of like stress and self-doubt all the time.
Yeah, like I've always got those really strong voices, the two that are like one saying you did an awesome job and the other one that says you did a terrible job. And obviously with being earlier in my career, I'm still at the stage where I just think everything I did was rubbish because there's a frame of reference that I don't have. So I usually have to default on they were happy. And that's sometimes what matters more.
Yeah. So there's probably also going to be a layer of intimidation's not the right word. Pressure might be a better word, but like Lola, I would consider to be one of the more skilled piercers that I've encountered. And I think I obviously have my bias because she's my spouse now. But even before that, like even before her and I had a personal relationship, even when we hadn't had long conversations before, she was always really highly regarded as an excellent piercer in this region. The UK, in Scotland, in Glasgow, all that stuff, first APP member in Scotland, all those things. And you were a client of hers, and then you became her apprentice. So before we kind of talk about the different layers of that, inner and outer and everything, like how did you actually land the job?
So first of all, I had no idea who Lola was. Like I didn't know her place in the community. I didn't know that she was a great piercer or a terrible piercer. And because I'd come from, middle of nowhere, getting pierced up in the north coast of Scotland, it meant that like I wasn't as finger on the pulse for like piercing as everyone else was. It was something that I enjoyed. None of my friends were into it, so it was kind of just like a me thing. So as I left home and traveled around the world and stuff, I would get pierced at different places. And it was actually my fiance now. We were early in our relationship, and she had said that she was interested in getting nipple piercings, but she would feel more comfortable with a female piercer, which even in Scotland is hard to come by. But I had heard through one of my friends who worked in a tattoo shop in Glasgow of this like really well-respected piercer in Glasgow. So I had actually like done research into Lola and into Forest, and I was like, I actually think this is a really good person that I would recommend you go and see. And I was like, well, if you're going, I'll go as well, and I'll get something fun. Because even from Lola's list, I was like, I haven't come across people that can do half of these, services. And it was, at this point, I was already looking into being a piercer, or even just like coming into the industry at some point. I was chatting to piercers in Edinburgh, like Wojciech, and he had given me like references to books to read and things like that and courses to do. But the thing for me was when I got pierced by Lola, I was like, this is unlike any experience I've ever had. Of all the piercings I've had in my life, this is just totally different. And I think the biggest thing for me was I felt seen as well as well looked after. And I was like, I don't care when it is or how long it takes or what I have to do. I want to know what she knows, and I want to know how she does it. So I kind of just kept hounding her. I was just like, all right, cool. Well, just so you're aware, this is something I'm interested in. What can I do myself that will set me up as a good kind of candidate for being an employee? And so she would give me the guidance, and I listened to it, and I put it in place, and I did whatever she asked, and I would come back again. So the first piercing I got was a bridge, which meant I had multiple downsizes afterwards, which was great because it meant multiple excuses to go back in and hound her for more information. So it meant that she was very aware of me and of like how invested I was in this idea. It wasn't like a fleeting thing. So it actually meant that when she was looking for expanding the business to have more staff, I was already on her mind. And it wasn't the first visit, but it was like one of the subsequent visits. I'd like left her like a physical CV with a cover letter,
Which is a resume for American listeners.
yeah, a resume. And my cover letter, it wasn't like a traditional professional cover letter, and I'd actually never done one before. It was more just like a profile. It was like, this is my background, this is why I'm interested in piercing, and this is what I think I could bring to the table, as well as all of the kind of facts in the CV that back that up. So it meant that when Lola was looking, she was like, hey, I don't know if this is something you're interested in because I know you want to be a piercer, but I'm just looking for counter staff. And I was like, absolutely. Even if I never actually want to get into piercing, I would just love to be involved and, get to see behind the curtain and be a part of it. And yeah, it only just ignited that flame more.
I remember when you kind of popped onto the scene, and she would like reference you bringing in that cover letter, that resume, and just like the level of professionalism that I think is sometimes a little bit lacking in people that are trying to kind of find a way to break into this industry, like a foot in the door kind of a thing, because not a lot of jobs these days, especially like the entry-level type jobs, like some of people's like earlier jobs in their life, not a lot of those require that level of work to get in. It's, is it available? Are you capable of the job? You can get, simple retail jobs, things like that people might consider like their first job and maybe not necessarily a career path. So for piercing being much more of a career path, in my opinion, I think that sometimes people don't see that like a shop is looking at you as a potentially long-term partner, investment in time, investment in materials and education, all these different things. So if you can really like let them see you as a person and what that person is capable of, your personality, your professionalism, your maturity, dependability, all those things, very important to a business. And I remember Lola saying like, there's this guy named Jordan, he's giving me a good vibe for like career path type stuff, and I want to give him a role as a counter person. Then eventually that turning into, I think I want to apprentice Jordan, and then like your path through the apprenticeship and like the struggles with growth that every piercer has, and like seeing how you've kind of stepped up for all those different like stages of your career, and bringing in new piercings that you feel comfortable with, and stuff that you're like nailing, and like this progression and everything, and now like up to UKAPP membership and UKAPP election and all that stuff. Like it's great seeing that whole path. So like I wanted to talk with you and capture some of that for especially younger piercers, whether they're in the UK or outside of the UK, but seeing that like things like this are possible for someone, and to maybe take some of your steps as a good example, like the professionalism and showing yourself as someone who can be dependable.
Yeah, so the resume CV thing was I've always been under the mindset of like I was 14, 15 in my town handing out CVs wherever I could for like summer jobs and stuff. So that is partly probably a generational thing. And when I worked in retail, we would have people come in with CVs and we had to tell them they're not a way in which we accept job offers anymore or job requests. You have to do it online. So I do think that people who say like email stores asking for jobs and stuff is kind of a byproduct of just where we're at right now with how a lot of industries do accept job requests. But it's, for me, it was like, I've always had that thing of dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And no one is ever going to look down on you or think you're silly for over preparing for something. I just addressed this job request as any other, whether that was as an engineer, whether that was retail, even if it was like a summer home delivery job or something. Like I've always come in with the same level of professionalism, because someone's not going to go, this guy is acting like he's asking for a lawyer job. Why are we going to hire him? Like, that's just not how people think. People are like, he is taking this really seriously. That's someone that we would consider.
Well, I think part of it is also this industry for most studios. It's not a corporate world, multiple stores, absentee owners, things like that. It's very personal to people. Like Forrest was a huge amount of labor for Lola to start and to keep moving forward and everything. And it's a big deal for her to kind of bring someone into that and give them that trust. I think a lot of studios are the same. I feel like I'm the same. Like I'm not going to just put out a call like we have 10 open roles and let's just fill in with the first 10 people that are available. Like it's very personal for me. I'm sure it was very personal for her. So it's great to see someone like you with that goal be able to connect with someone and to reach that goal.
I think as well for me is, so like when I was stepping into piercing, I knew I wanted to be good at piercing. That was outright my goal. And like, I've excelled at things historically, but I've never felt like I've excelled at things. Like I've never had a tangible thing to base off my success. So for me, I was like, I want this to be my success in life, is be good at piercing. And that was obviously one of the reasons as to why I want Lola to teach me, because I was like, whatever she knows is substantially more significant than things I've experienced in the past. And I didn't actually, even then, I didn't know Lola's sort of position in the industry until I think it was like 6 months into working with her. Because we're relatively closed off from everyone else. So I wasn't as attuned to the community as everyone else was. And we actually went to Nathan Haig, a piercer in Scotland. We went to his trade show, and in a really nice way, he came up to me and he was like, I hope you know the opportunity you've got right now. Please just make the most of it. And from that point on, that's been something on my mind where I'm like, I have lucked out. Like, I know Lola says that I earned this position and that it's through my own hard work that I even got the offer, but it's such a lucky opportunity to get to learn from Lola Slider and to work in her business. And I definitely am not unaware that I have started a couple of rungs higher than others. And I feel like it wouldn't be fair for me to take that for granted. So although what you say, I have made massive steps in my career already, that's only because I've been making sure to make the most of the opportunities that have been given to me, And that kind of comes from...
Pause button, client. All right, I am recording. We had to stop for some client services. What is your train of thought, or do you want to move on to another subject?
I can't remember what we were talking about.
Something about, I don't remember. Lola's great,
Yeah.
and you're great, and etc.
Yeah, I remember saying that I had met Nathan. He had said about,
Oh,
this
right.
is a great
Appreciate the
opportunity.
opportunity.
And at that moment, I was like, didn't even realize. Like, obviously, I appreciated Lola for who she was, but I didn't realize how much of an effect she had on the bigger world, kind of thing. So yeah, I was like, I have never come from a place of privilege, and I was very aware at that moment of the privilege that I had, and I wasn't going to waste it.
Good.
Yeah.
So once you kind of like broke through that career point where you had some experience, you'd been working, you'd been piercing, you were piercing without supervision, you were kind of growing your list of services, more opportunities for education, things like that. Was it always a goal of yours to try to do something more on the volunteering side of it, like board work or other maybe committee work?
No, not at all. Like, I don't like being perceived, really. And it's hard to explain. I think with Lola's absence, I've wanted to connect with more people in the piercing community. And me and Kat have been talking about, like, doing more with piercers in Glasgow and stuff. So I'd already thought about, like, I could do more for the UKAPP and the British piercing community, and I'd been reaching out to them to offer, like, my time and just saying, like, if there's anything that you guys could do with an extra pair of hands, give me a shout. If there's, even just boring admin work that you would want help with, let me know. So it was kind of just good timing for where my head was at when this opportunity came up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How nerve-wracking was it? Or was it not nerve-wracking? Was it something else? Like, how would you explain what the process was like putting yourself out there for nomination, but then also running?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
The entire time, even now, like I'm terrified that someone's going to finally figure out that I am a fraud. Yeah, I hope that isn't the case, I guess. But the thing is like, well, you've been a massive help. Lola's been a massive help, and to be fair, after the results came out and it was, that I had got it, so many people had reached out to me to not just congratulate me, but be like, you're exactly the guy that I wanted for this role. If they weren't a member, someone might have said, like, if I was able to vote, it would have been you I voted for. And it was just really fucking nice, but at the same time also, like, I hope I don't let any of these people down,
Yeah, well, there's always going to be that, like, nervous side of it. But, I think if you go into it just kind of having the thought process of, like, I'm just here to help, not like here to own it or take over or something. It's different because it's like the, many hands make light work, community, team, all that stuff. So even if there is a screw up, chances are it can be kind of like dispersed among several people and softened.
Yeah. And another thing that I'm telling myself is that, like, knowledge is good for this role, but being a great piercer isn't what this role needs.
Right.
It is an admin role, really. So, like, interpersonal relationships and how I conduct myself is going to be really important, and I actually do think that I do a good job at that. So it's, in time management and, all that back office jazz is stuff that I'm pretty good at.
Yeah.
And I think from not being as involved in the UKAPP, because I've not really been in it for that long, I can come in with fresh eyes with a different perspective, and I think that would be quite good as well.
Is there any kind of advice that you might want to share? I mean, outside of what you've already kind of said for your path, your story, is there any advice that you would want to share to people who are maybe trying to find a way into the industry, or maybe the ones who are in the industry and are looking for ways to maybe connect with the wider world of piercing?
So one thing I keep telling myself is don't compare my work to someone else's work. Don't compare where I am with where someone else is. My biggest hurdle was overcoming the fact that I joined this industry in my late 20s, and I was like, I am too old, I am expired to get into this job. And as soon as I would interact with people who were at the same point in their career as me, but were like 10 years younger, I was like, oh yeah, I really don't actually care. Like, I'm just as happy being where I am at this point in my age, in this point in life, as they are for themselves. And the thing is like, I'm further past the point than I thought I would be at this point, and that for me is my success. So I guess I would say, like, if you're looking at doing more and getting into more and, you know, putting yourself out there, don't belittle yourself by comparing your work to other people's work. Like, and that doesn't mean that what I do, what you do, what anyone else does is anything less, you know. If you're getting into the industry, be determined, really, is the main thing. And don't jump at the first opportunity if it's an easy in. Make sure you think about it and you make important decisions and you think about what your entry into this industry is, and is it a good entry, really.
That sparks something in my mind that's very UK specific for me. Like, I've been in Glasgow just the past few days, relatively short trip, and I've been seeing tons of ads for these like 3-day masterclass crash course things. And those exist everywhere, basically, that piercing is financially viable, but like
more
just
concentrated here.
Yeah, it's like I've gotten several pushed ads from several different master classes, and they all just seem like 1 to 2 to maybe 3-day things that cost an enormous amount of money. And I really can't understand how someone thinks that they're being set up for success with that, because you don't really have any fundamentals, foundation. You have like a kit, and, you know, maybe you could talk your way into a job in a shop that maybe doesn't know the great world of what the wide world of piercing out there, but it seems a lot more stark compared to the US. Has that been around for a while? Is that super common? Like, do you know piercers that kind of got in that way, and do you think that they might regret it?
I did one. So I did, I think it was either a 3 or a 5-day course. I actually can't remember. It was start of 2020, just before lockdown and everything kicked off. But I went into it as job experience, not job training. So that was roughly around about the time where I was like, this is definitely what I want to do. But before I waste someone else's time and my time, I want to make sure that I at least get a little bit of an idea into what it involves. So I had a bit of money set aside. So I went on one of these courses, and I was like, look, the best this is going to do is tell me this is something I'm interested in, or it's going to tell me that I'm probably not good for this job, you know. So that's what I took out of it, and it only did make me hungrier for it. But when I finished, I knew I didn't know anything, you know. Like I was so unequipped, and there were people on that course with me that were literally going to go and open studios, or maybe their partner had like a salon where they were going to open a piercing space or something like that. And it is scary because they got as much education out of it as I did, and I still was like, I know as much as I would if I was just on Reddit for a day. Kind of thing.
So was it more like presented as like, this is everything you need to know, or was it just like, here's a primer of the things to search out and learn in the future?
No, it was this is everything you need to know. Yeah. And it was like not great. Yeah. Like, looking back on the information that we were given, a lot of it is like, it could have maybe flown 20 years ago. but it's so outdated now, you know. And as well, there was no room for like personalization in there in terms of like, it was this way or the highway, you know, like if you're going to do this piercing, you have to use this equipment with this tool, with this size of jewelry. And it was very much you fit into the template and that's what you repeat time and time again. There was no considerations on different anatomy or whether you felt comfortable using a particular type of equipment or anything like that.
Doesn't seem like there'd be a lot of room for nuance in like a rushed class like
No,
that.
no. But the reason why I think it's such a big thing here is Britain is very, what's the word? Scrupulous? Is that the word?
Unscrupulous, you mean?
Maybe. We're tight.
Okay.
And if we can get something for like, I mean, I don't know what they're charging now, but for me it was £500. And for like a training course that would qualify you to get into a job, if you didn't know any better, I would say that's a pretty good price. Obviously, I knew better.
Yeah, the ones that I was getting ads for, of course I was curious and I clicked on it to get more info. And it was like 1 day course, $1,500, 2 day course, $3,000, 5 day course, $5,000. And it's like,
That is crazy.
who's got $5,000 first off? And how do you imagine that you're going to be able to recoup a $5,000 investment on something that's that rushed?
Well, they do give you a little box of acrylic beads.
Okay. Well, you know, whatever. It's also tough because like you don't want to come across as hypocritical because like I have friends who instruct for the Fakir intensives. That's an open access training course for people with no piercing experience, but it's instructed by incredibly experienced piercers. And I think that they're giving them the nuance and the scope to say like, this is not everything you need. This is a primer, you know, and this is kind of like your foundation to understand maybe how to have a more successful apprenticeship or maybe what path to search out more information for piercing. I don't think the Fakir intensives are selling it as like, this is everything you need to know to open a shop tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the difference is they sell it as what I told myself the course was for. Like I have the certificate behind the desk that says I'm qualified as a piercer, which is a lie. You know, like even now, I'm not, you know, it's like there's no qualification for it. So like, that's the thing, is it's just dishonest.
Yeah.
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 For me,
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, if they're making a claim that they can't back up, because sometimes people ask about like training and things. Sometimes people will say like, oh, are there any like accredited like university classes for piercing? And it's like, I have never heard of one. And I would be shocked if there was one somewhere out in the world. Like the training that you can get in this in this industry is like, it's at best an experienced piercer telling you their experience. It's not something where it's like, you know, a peer-reviewed professor kind of.
No, it's always going to be a biased one experience versus another. Yeah.
Right, right.
And that's, I kind of like that because anyone that's gone through higher education will at some point have met that barrier where they're like, but this doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that which our industry does it is you could go into one classroom, see someone do a septum piercing, go into another classroom, see someone else do it a different way, and you can be like, oh, that makes way more sense to me.
Yeah. So having seen like that side of training, having seen something that, you know, might be classified as like crash course kind of category, and then seeing like what, you know, an apprenticeship under someone who's already very skilled, already very established, and, you know, seeing Lola's kind of training method and the way she mentors, and then eventually going to things like trade shows, conferences, things like that. Do you see yourself as wanting to potentially mentor someone or potentially apprentice someone in the future?
It's not something that I'm opposed to, but no. It's not, I'm a very patient person, but I don't think it's a skill set that I have. It's also not something that I think just motivates me either. I might get, you know, 10 years time, 15 years time, I might think like, you know what, I'm ready to help someone else grow, and maybe, but at this moment, I mean, I'm so early in my career, the idea of doing it would be terrifying and irresponsible. And I just don't think that that's a route that is necessary for me, you know.
Well, I think it's normal to have that kind of reaction earlier into a career, but I could see you being like a good mentor in the future, but something that you kind of mentioned to me is like motivation is a big part of it for instructing, and I think we kind of agree that like if your motivation is more kind of ego driven, like I want to have an apprentice because it looks good for me, that's maybe not as healthy of a motivation as like I have information to share and I would like to share it with someone. So what are your thoughts on something like that? Like how do you think, what are some of the things that went into Lola being an effective mentor for you?
Well, I think for her, like her motivation was that she wanted me to be a good piercer. So one thing I really enjoyed about Lola's mentoring was that she would come to the table with an entire plan of how something was going to go, and I would instantly ruin that plan. And she would have to like pivot and be like, that's fine, we can think of something else. And I think that was something for me that was so beneficial, is she wasn't in it for herself, she was in it for me. So she was like, hey, if my plan's not working, let's fix it and let's do a plan that works for you.
Yeah, I remember when she decided to move forward with training you as a piercer, and she actually took the time to like write out
The whole
like
journal.
a journal, like a book and everything. And it was like such a level of care and thought that went into it, where I like retroactively felt that I was a bad mentor to my former apprentices, because I never got to that point. I had some written material, but it wasn't material that I wrote. It was supplemental material that I had gathered along my way.
Yeah.
And I'm just more of like a scatterbrain, like what do we feel like talking about in the moment, or what has come in today that you could watch or ask questions about. And she had such a plan for it and a thought process behind it that it was impressive, and it was intimidating to see it.
She was definitely ready for my apprenticeship, like before I was ready for the apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And I think that's another big thing, because like I also wouldn't want to instruct like at a conference or anything like that. And I think it's because I don't have anything worth saying. I wouldn't want to be an instructor just so I had that badge on my chest. I wouldn't want to think, all right, I want to teach a class, let's figure out what class to teach. I would want it to be, this is a problem I keep coming across, I figured out the solution, I think other people would want to hear that. And I think that also goes hand in hand with apprentices as well, where it's like the goal should be the person's become a piercer, not I'm a mentor now.
Yeah. Well, the motivation is going to be different for everyone. Sometimes it's more like lineage based. Like I have some value, and I can explain something, articulate something that was difficult to figure out, and I want to make sure I pass that along.
Yeah.
For some people, it's like, well, I just need some help around the shop, and what's the way that I can get that as cheap as possible. Other times it's just the vanity of like, I want someone to say that I'm like, the senpai or whatever.
That also goes with like the opposite end of that, where if someone's worked in the industry for 20, 30, 25 years, has a vast amount of knowledge, well respected, I also don't think that it's their obligation to have an apprentice either. I don't think that other people should put pressure on that person to do it either, because it's just not for everyone. And yeah, we can say like your knowledge is so valuable, we want that to be passed down to the next generation. That's a personal decision that everyone should make. We'd spoken about it before, and it's exactly the same as deciding to start a family. Some people decide that it's for them, and some people are happy just doing their thing.
Yeah, I think once you're established and happy with yourself, you don't want to feel like you're stuck with having to find this next step. Like some people might not want to open a shop, to run a shop. Some people might not want to mentor or apprentice, or some people might not want to have to be like making educational content or teaching classes or volunteering, and like all that's okay. Like I know that there are so many things in the world right now that weigh people down with guilt and self-doubt and all these things. The whole concept of like there's the fear of missing out side of it, but there's also like the guilt of like trying to catch up to someone else's career or something. I would hope that people will find the tools to start to put that down as they maybe get a little bit farther along in life. I know that I fell into that trap quite a bit too, of comparing my success to someone else's successes. Like I have lots of friends who are very successful piercers, shop owners, and when they would say, we're doing great, this and that, expanding or whatever, like I should have been like, that's so great for you, I'm so happy for you. But I had that immediate like, oh, why can't I be that good sort of a thing. And that's a really tough thing to get past. I don't know. I still don't know that I am right now.
Yeah, and it's the same, like you could compare your business with its financial take to another business, but like my reward, my value is literally like, did everyone leave having a fucking awesome time?
Yeah.
You know? I feel like I've thought about this since I was younger. There's almost like a imaginary timeline or a conveyor belt that you're put on as a child. And, you know, at least here, you're kind of told, well, you'll go to school, you'll study, you might go to higher education, or you'll go to an apprenticeship, you'll find a career, you'll settle down, you'll get a house, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And similar to that is what I've seen in our industry, which is, you know, you get an apprenticeship, you work through that, you put some years under your belt, and then maybe you get your own shop, and then you own that studio, you get your own apprenticeship, your own apprentice rather, and then maybe you start doing instructing or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I just don't think that's great for the people who that works for, but putting yourself into that sort of strict idea of what success is like, I'm super happy just being a pleb, you know. Like I get to put all of my time and energy into this and focusing on this and enjoying it. And like me and Lola have spoken about me like having more of a you know, control over the studio, and I just don't want it. I would lose joy in the job if I had to do more for them, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm right there with you. So, like, when we're kind of talking about piercers who, you know, maybe they're fixating a little bit too much on what's going on outside of their own career or outside of their own studio, it can be really tough because, like, the world we live in with social media and everything, like, you have this constant barrage. Like, sometimes I meet piercers at conferences and I have no recognition of their face at all, or even their like legal name or like, you know, name they use out in the world or whatever. But like, I know their screen name and I'm very familiar with their like online presence, you know? So there's this weird kind of blur sometimes where it's like, I'm pretty familiar with maybe someone's career or piercing style or studio, or maybe even like their pets over them. But it's like, it's also tough because like being older in life, as Lola might gently put it, I'm actively scared of creating parasocial relationships. Like for me, I'm a big pro wrestling fan, like indie pro wrestling. You go to a lot of shows, you're talking to people face to face over like a t-shirt table or something like that. And there were parts where like I would start to kind of like think like, well, are we becoming friendly because I've talked to this person on several times? And it's like, but I don't know anything about them. They don't know anything about me. And now I'm trying to actively not create like parasocial relationships. And within the industry, I think it's healthy to know the difference between who's a friend, who's a colleague, like who do you know in the real world versus like who's someone that you have a professional interaction with, or maybe just an online interaction with. So like, How do you feel about that? Because you're going to get exposed to a lot more people in a lot more different ways with like board work and your upcoming volunteer work. So how do you feel about that?
So like, it's new to me because every job, I mean, like prior to piercing, I would say like I have maybe 2 or 3 friends from work. And that's like historically, like the multiple jobs I've worked, I've always gotten on with like most of my colleagues. I've really hardly ever come across someone who's like, you know, not fun to be around or whatever. But it's the really like special person who's like, do you want to hang out after work? And it's because we'll have like a shared interest in something, whether that's video games or, you know, D&D or something, whatever it is, skating or something, where it's like, oh, hey, well, we could go and do that together after work and it'd be cool, we can hang out. And I think the thing with piercing is we already have that. We already have piercing in common, but that's our job. Like for some of us, it's exhausting if that's the conversation all the time.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, I've always gotten on with my colleagues. So I'm not wanting to say that like if I don't consider someone in the industry not a friend, it doesn't mean I don't like them.
Yeah.
It's just that that's not a relationship that we have. And I think that that's really important because not only does that set quite an unrealistic expectation on that relationship, it also, if you see each other as colleagues, that's still a positive. It's not saying that that's a bad thing. It also avoids you from getting hurt by thinking like, why does no one want to hang out with me? And it's like, well, we're colleagues. We want our own time. We want to, you know, give as much of our time to everyone as possible. But like outside of work, you know, we have our own lives, our own things going on. And I think the thing is with conference is when all of us are finally able to like interact with people who have such a hyperfixation on the same thing, that when that is going on, we're like, well, why aren't we best friends? You know, when in a normal kind of work environment, come 5 o'clock on a Friday, I ain't talking to you until Monday, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's also something that I love about our industry is the community of it. It's such a warming thing to have. There's just nuance in the relationships that we have with one another I think is quite beneficial to have because there should be a little bit of realism in there. You know, we should not set expectations for people to act in a way where they're maybe just not comfortable.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. And I think that the friendships you develop beyond that stage of colleagues are stronger for it.
For sure.
Because if you go into something thinking like there are gonna be 50 people here and I'm gonna be friends with all of them when I leave, that's probably unrealistic.
Yeah.
But you know, if you can,
Who's got the time?
if you can just maintain that professional colleague relationship, you know, mutual respect, information sharing, avoiding gatekeeping, things like that, you know, helping other people find their opportunities, like that's always going to be really important. But I think like when you can have those personal connections with people, it makes those friendships a lot stronger. Like I've got some great friends that I've met in conferences, travel and things like that, that I never would have probably like met and befriended if it wasn't for that shared work interest.
For sure.
But if I try to force it with someone, yeah, it's like everybody runs out of energy. Everybody maybe has like a clash in interests or something. Like it's just that whole concept about like, you know, pass me the aux cable when you're driving around in a car. It's like not everybody's going to have the same musical tastes. Not everybody's going to want to have the same food, and not everyone is going to have the same off hours interests or vibes.
Yeah. Like it was, even when we started gaming together, you know, like I would maybe message my mates and be like, oh, I can't jump on tonight. I'm going to be playing with like a pal from work, you know, and that would where it would start. And now it's like, oh no, I'm playing with my pal Ryan, you know. So even initially, like we were relatively close because you date my boss. Mm-hmm. Well, you're married to my boss.
Yeah.
But like we hadn't each other gotten to that point where we were friends, mm-hmm. you know. And I think it's those relationships that we make in this industry are phenomenal, like absolutely amazing. But there's also nothing wrong with just being good acquaintances, you know? And I like to think that anyone that I've interacted with out in the world, whether that's at like a conference or if another piercer's dropped by our shop, if they've interacted with me and they're like, Jordan's a good friend, that's kind of my intention, because that's, for me, the way that colleagues should interact with one another anyway. And like you say, it's just with respect. The thing for me where it goes beyond that is where you have a shared interest or a shared love for something outside of the workplace. And I think that's where work should stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's healthy. Healthy boundaries.
Yeah, I like healthy boundaries.
Well, can you think of anything else that you'd want to talk about? Or do you think we've kind of covered everything that was on your mind?
I think people are probably bored of my voice now.
No, you have that charming accent.
A little.
So, for the people who might not already know you or your work or your social media, like how would you want people to learn more about you? Like what's the social media you would want people to be steered towards?
Just check out JJ Pearson, JJ_Pearson. That's me. But also the Forest page, there's all my stuff in there.
So Forest Piercing Glasgow, and incoming UKAPP board member for, is that a 2-year or a 3-year term?
3.
3-year term.
Well, 3 and some change because I'm actually starting ahead of time.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
so thanks for your time, and I guess we'll get back to work now.
Awesome.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. For more information about the show, visit piercingwizardpodcast.com or like Piercing Wizard Podcast on Facebook. For more info about your host, visit precisionbodyarts.com or search Ryan PBA on Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr. If you enjoy the show, you can subscribe on iTunes, Apple Podcast, and Google Play. Music by Benny B. Blanco. Show copyright 2017, Precision Body Arts LLC, all rights reserved.